Good afternoon, class. My name is Danny Martinez, and today I'm going to be reading to you guys 4 different prompts that we had to write about. And the first one is going to be, why do relationship conflicts, as opposed to task or process conflicts, potentially lead to the most dysfunctional and harmful outcomes? Explain your answer. So, in my opinion, I believe that relationship conflicts lead to more dysfunctional and harmful outcomes just due to the fact that there's a lot, it's all emotion and, like feelings that are being portrayed in these conflicts rather than, for example, if you're at work or if you're cooking and, just some conflicts happen here and there, you're not going to be as emotionally invested with these other conflicts compared to how you would be in a relationship, because in a relationship you're almost like dating to marry, so you're gonna do everything you can with that person to make amends and make the problems have solutions and just try to work them out between each other. That's why it's when relationships do have, they fight or whatever, it takes a toll on both partners, just because it's pretty heavy. It's not just your everyday problem or a harmful outcome that happens. It's, when it comes down to your with your significant other, it can be very crucial. Another big reason could be that personalities can clash. Sometimes people are too alike or not alike, not alike at all, which can definitely cause a lot of conflict. And then, in relationships, the best thing to do is to find a mutual agreement. And I feel like a lot of the times that the outcome for relationships can be like, oh, I was right and you were wrong, or vice versa. And that's not very healthy for relationships. So that's another reason how it can take a toll on the relationship. Task conflicts, I feel like, aren't as harmful to anyone, because if managed properly, they can stimulate growth, and you can receive feedback on what went wrong and what can be done to improve this scenario and what to do to prevent it from happening again. I still believe that relationship conflicts are going to be every time way more harmful than task conflicts, just due to the fact that it's comes heavy with feelings. There's definitely some interpersonal issues that are between the relationship, and just have to be emotionally intelligent when it comes down to that. I mean, if it all comes down to how you handle your emotions, then there's gonna be zero, if not zero to little conflict, because when the emotions get heightened, that's when everything goes down the drain, basically. Everyone starts lashing out. Things are said that aren't meant to be said, that aren't meant. So yeah, these are all different reasons why a relationship would cause more conflict than tasks. For my next prompt, I have to read about, of the 5 conflict management strategies, which do you believe are most likely to occur in a conflict between 2 unequal parties, a manager, an employee, a board of directors, and its CEO, or a large company and a small supplier? Which do you believe are most likely to occur in a conflict between two equal parties? Similarly sized companies, team members, or department heads? Explain your reasoning. When it comes to conflicts between unequal parties, an example would be a manager and an employee, board of directors and CEO, or a large company and a small supplier. I believe that accommodation happens a lot just because, a lot of when it comes down to unequal parties, there's obviously going to have a higher power and a lower power. So, some people are going to have more of a say of what goes on compared to the people that are on the bottom. They still have, their rights and stuff, but they don't have their opinion isn't as strong as the people upstairs, as in the higher ups. So accommodation, like an example of this would be if a manager gives an assignment to an employee and the employee doesn't agree with the assignment whatsoever, like the way to do it and how to do it, but they're gonna have to do it that way because that's what the manager told them to do, and those are the rules. If you don't follow the rules, then you're gonna be punished. You could lose your job. So accommodation is a very good key factor when it comes to two unequal parties. Also, avoidance. Avoidance is just biting your tongue and just walking the other way. I believe that this is a very good strategy when it comes to unequal parties, because the weaker party can choose to avoid confrontation, and if they don't like what the higher ups are saying, and avoidance can also diffuse tension temporarily. So while the emotions are high between the two parties, avoidance will definitely bring down the heightened emotions, so they can talk more on a calmer basis and get better information out of each other, instead of, if it was heightened emotions, just yelling and saying things that aren't meant to be said, things like that. For equal parties, these examples would be similarly sized companies, team members, and department heads. Which do you believe are most likely to occur in conflict between two equal parties? Explain your reasoning. So I came up with collaboration. It's often pursued when both sides have equal power and a shared interest in finding a mutually beneficial outcome. Collaboration will allow the two parties to get together and speak about their differences, see what agreements can be met, and then see what agreements can't be met, and see where to go from there. Compromise is also another great factor. I mean, this is when two parties agree to meet ends in the middle. So one party didn't get their complete way and the other party didn't get everything they wanted. They decide to see where what outcome fits the best decision for both of them. And competition, though riskier, can also occur with both sides when they're strong and willing to not back down. Because if parties are equal, one's gonna want to be better than the other. It's gonna be very competitive. So that could be competitive in a bad way or a good way. So these are all different ways how equal parties would deal with conflict, and they're all very good. What's the word? Very good conflict management strategies. So just to sum it up, unequal conflicts lead to accommodation and avoidance, and then equal conflicts, they correlate with collaboration, compromise, and competition. For my third prompt is consider a time that you managed conflict through avoidance. What did you actually avoid by putting off and waiting to deal with the conflict? Did avoidance make the conflict situation better? Why or why not? What types of conflict situations are best addressed through avoidance? Explain your answer. So I remember, this was a couple months ago, that my boss was having a very rough day, and I don't know what was going on. It could have been personal issues at home. It could have been, God knows what. And he came in having a bad day, having a bad attitude with all the employees, and it just wasn't right. So I remember I was working on a part to build, and I messed it up. And that mess ups happen all the time at work. It's not a big deal. Just has to get fixed, and it takes a little bit of while. And shipping might have to wait a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's gonna get resolved. And he came when I told him that, I was like, oh, like, look what happened. Sorry, like the drill bit broke. And he just lashed out at me, just lost his temper. His emotions were very heightened. Started almost insulting me at the point with like just unnecessary rude comments that they really triggered me, and they got to me. But I know that putting fuel into the fire is no good. So I thought that the best thing to do is to avoid him, which is what avoidance is. And I bit my tongue and just walked away. It was literally in the middle of, like, while he was continuing to lash out at me, and I was just like, I'm not going to deal with this. Like, I'm going to take a couple minutes of myself. And honestly, it was a really good decision. I mean, it might have been a little bit rude to walk off on your boss, but I mean, if he's coming at you and lashing out at you, like, all that extra stuff, you don't need to take all that. So instead of doubling down and giving him some of my energy, like, oh, look at this, I was just like, walked off. And it felt really good, surprisingly. I took 10-15 minutes to just calm down. It took 10-15 minutes for him to calm down. So I did a lap around the facility, talked to some friends, got a drink at the vending machine. And when I came back, he was just like, it was a complete different person. There was no rude things said. He even apologized for the way he came out at me, and we got through a resolution talking about what can we do better so these mistakes don't happen again, and then also what can he do better so it's not a cause and effect where I mess up and then he loses his mind. It's so there were solutions for both causes, which ended in tremendous fashion. So I was very content with that. Emotions can always be way too high when it comes to conflict, and avoidance can be deliberate and temporary strategy, not a permanent solution. So yeah, you're not going to always want to avoid whatever problem or issue comes at you, because then you're just walking away. Like, you're not facing the problem that you have to deal with. But like it says, it's temporary because you're gonna get back to it. You're just waiting for all the emotions and the feelings to bring it down a notch, so you're able to communicate on a sane basis. My last prompt is discuss the integrative bargaining strategies used in the case negotiation discussed in the previous section. Which of the 4 strategies separate the people from the problem, focus on interest, not positions, and generate a variety of possibilities and insist on some fair standard were used. So in this case, negotiation, all of them, all of the integrative bargaining strategies were used. And the first one that was used was separating people from the problem. Like I kind of talked about in the last prompt, you avoid people. So you go your own way, and that person goes their own way. You just gotta wait it out until the time comes down. So those are